जय गुरु जी महाराज के चरणों में सादर प्रणाम और सारी जुड़ी संगत को भी प्यार भरी नमस्ते. With Guruji Maharaj's immense grace and blessings, we are reading his divine Granth, the Light of Divinity. And today, to receive our blessings, we will be reading Satsang of R.P Singla, Blessings at the Master's Feet. चरण कमल की मौज को कहूँ कैसे अनुमान, कहबे को शोभा नहीं, देखा ही परमान. The medieval saint Kabir refused to quantify the pleasure of being at the Sadguru's feet, saying it can't be expressed as nothing comparable to this pleasure exists in this world. I have felt the same in my life too, for Guruji's blessings have changed my whole life, my perception of life, and given it a new direction and purpose. Intimations of omniscience. In August of 1998, I received a call one evening from a friend, Wing Commander Chopra, asking me to join him at Guruji's place. After stiff resistance, as I had never believed in saints, I agreed, thinking I would oblige my friend. The day we left from Noida at around 6 in the evening and reached Guruji's place in about 45 minutes. Since it was my first visit, I knew no one in the Sangat except Chopra. We sat there among a gathering of about 15 to 20 people waiting for Guruji. When Guruji came out of his room, we all went and bowed to him. Normally, at religious gatherings, as a gesture of their respect to the Almighty or for the cause of a religious outfit, this is the time funds are raised as people donate money. But Wing Commander Chopra cautioned me that I was not supposed to offer money at Guruji's place. The only thing that could be offered to Guruji were either flowers or sweets. Flowers were used to decorate the Sangat hall, and sweets were distributed among the Sangat as prasad by Guruji. After Chopra had briefly introduced me, Guruji turned to me and straightway asked, "When are you planning your next visit to Chandigarh?" It surprised me, since Chopra knew nothing of my plan and could not have told Guruji about it. Somehow Guruji knew more than what was conveyed by Chopra. Overcoming my surprise, I replied to Guruji. Guruji wanted to know where I usually stayed in Chandigarh. I told him that I stayed at the home of a friend, IPS officer P.P. Singh. Guruji remarked that Pritpal Singh was his firm follower. He told me to tell Singh that I had visited Guruji and also ask him to come to Delhi to meet him. The mystery surrounding Guruji and his powers grew. As we settled down and we were offered tea, chai prasad, soothing shabads were being played and they filled the environment with divine bliss. After a short while, Guruji started distributing sweets and their quantity fascinated me. Guruji used only his right hand to pick and distribute the prasad, but it was hard for everyone to hold onto it with both hands. Physically, Guruji's hands may have been smaller than at least a few persons in the Sangat, but even these people could not hold on to it with both hands. After Guruji had given 2 or 3 rounds of prasad, the cumulative quantity of which would have amounted to at least half a kg of sweets for each person, arrangements for serving langar were initiated on Guruji's instructions. At this point, it was hard to believe that any more food could be eaten. But by the time langar was served, I was feeling hungry again. It was only during subsequent visits that I realized that all these experiences related to prasad and langar were quite the norm at Guruji's place. For the last 4 to 5 years, I had followed a strict regime. I would sleep by not later than 9:30 p.m. and get up early the next morning. But Guruji would let the Sangat go back at a time he deemed appropriate. So we were there till past midnight and left Noida left for Noida at around 1 o'clock at night. This was nothing less than a jolt for my body clock. Yet I found that I wasn't sleepy at all and was fresh till I reached home. Immediately on my arrival, I rang up P.P. Singh to confirm whether what Guruji had said was true. My friend took the call and was jubilant at learning that I had gone to Guruji's place in Empire State. It turned out that my friend was glad to know of Guruji's whereabouts since he had lost contact with him after Guruji left Chandigarh. We concluded our conversation at a very odd hour on a happy note. I then replied to questions from my wife about my first visit, and so a very eventful day came to an end. Next evening, I again got a call from Chopra who wanted to know whether I would join him at Guruji's place. I agreed without hesitation. In Guruji's Sharan, we again enjoyed Shabads, Prasad, and Langar. Then Guruji called me, addressing me as Gupta. Back home, I told my family of how Guruji had addressed me as Gupta. My children thought that Guruji had got it wrong. Probably he had forgotten my name. But I took out a blood donor card of mine from my college days and showed it to my kids. They learned for the first time that I used to write Gupta as my surname in college, and it was only after I had set up the business that I started using Singla. Guruji had once again shown that nothing is hidden from him. My wife and children decided they would join me on my next visit. A rosy journey to Chandigarh and back. Less than a week after meeting Guruji, he told me to go to Chandigarh with my wife and meet P.P. Singh and his family. Guruji's grace made the visit special. Guruji's body exudes a distinct natural fragrance. Throughout our journey to Chandigarh, that fragrance was with us. In Chandigarh, most of our time with the Singh family was spent talking about Guruji. When we were ready to depart, a strong breeze, redolent of Guruji's fragrance, swept past us. Yet, Guruji was 250 kilometers away in Delhi. Though understanding Guruji is a task beyond our reach, it is only with His grace that one develops at least a basic level of understanding. With whatever he has shown and allowed me to experience, I can assert that Guruji's fragrance is a sure indicator of Guruji's presence. Anytime, anywhere, whosoever calls upon Guruji for his support and protection, Guruji's response to the call is assured as well as immediate. But the call should be from the core of your heart. A few Sangat members are lucky to have dreams of Guruji. You can never have Guruji's dream till he wishes it. In fact, Guruji's appearance in a dream is by no means a casual event and amounts to being in his physical presence. How else could one justify what happens a few years ago? Guruji had come to Neemrana in Rajasthan to inaugurate my wheat flour mill. He was accompanied by some Sangat members. One of them was Mr. Madan, a businessman and resident of Gurgaon, who had come with his family. As soon as his daughter Ekta saw the factory, she cried out loud in a surprise that Guruji had shown her months earlier the entire setup and the function itself. How a short seva took my sufferings away. For any devotee, serving the Guru always means great joy and satisfaction. But with Guruji, there is an added dimension. Once Guruji gave me an opportunity to massage his legs, instructing me to do so from below the knee to the ankle. The overwhelming joy and pleasure I derived is hard to express. After that short half an hour of pressing his legs, my hands were filled with Guruji's fragrance. The fragrance decreased only after repeated hand washes and remained for more than 24 hours. And something miraculous too happened. The lower half of my legs was very stiff. In fact, it was my daily practice to have my son stand on the lower portion of my legs, his body weight providing me some relief. It took me a few days to realize that this problem of some 7-8 years had been erased by Guruji in that seva, service of half an hour on exactly the same portion of his body. Since then, I have never had this stiffness again. So, apart from this bliss, whenever Guruji gives anyone a chance of seva, it invariably benefits the devotee. The Maruti miracles. Our Maruti 800 used to give an average of approximately 12 to 12 and a half kilometers per liter of petrol. On every fuel stop, I choose to meticulously calculate the average. During the initial few car services, I asked the service center guys to improve the average. They told me clearly that since the car was used only for city driving, any improvement was improbable. When we started coming regularly to Guruji, I calculated and found that the average to be as good as 19 kilometers per liter. This came in as a surprise, and I anticipated a miscalculation. So I kept the finding to myself. On a subsequent fuel recharge, however, I was amazed to get the same mileage. Unable to accept this, I decided to wait for the next fuel stop. I was baffled when the same figures cropped up. Guruji commented on the fact the next time I was in his presence. Singla, what happened? Totally zapped by the figure of 19. How you now you realize how the grace of saints can work its magic not only on humans but objects like cars as well. And Guruji's remarks was borne out more than once. Once while driving, I looked at the fuel indicator to see that it was touching empty and turned to a petrol pump. Waiting in the queue of vehicles, I again looked at the indicator and was surprised to observe a sudden jump to halfway mark. I decided to leave without refilling. A couple of days passed and the indicator was showing empty again, and the car had run the expected mileage if we assume that the tank was half filled on the occasion just described. A glance at the fuel indicator after turning a turn towards the petrol pump baffled me. The fuel tank was again half filled. For a miraculous 2 weeks, our car looked like regaining lost fuel at the mere vision of a petrol pump. On a trip to Punjab, we started out from Delhi expecting to just reach the destination with the fuel we had. But contrary to this, we visited the place and came back to Delhi without filling the car with fuel at all. Not just the fuel efficiency, but even the space available inside our car seemed to be increasing as on as required basis. To start with, Guruji granted us the prized opportunity to bring langar to his place from where it was prepared. With Guruji's grace, all the utensils containing the packed langar were fitted in and we rolled over to Guruji's place. But with the Sangat increasing daily, the quantity of langar was increased proportionally and so did the car's capacity. Any increase in the size of the drums or the utensils was somehow accommodated in the car. One day, Guruji seemingly casual remark that the langar drums had fitted in the car saw the car become almost elastic. Once we had all the empty drums after the day's Sangat and were going back to Noida, just then Guruji instructed all the curtains of the temple to be taken off and given to the dry cleaning. Some 35 or 40 full size curtains with some 15 feet long. Since the dry cleaner was located in Noida, I was asked to try and accommodate some of the curtains. With four of us and the drums, not much was expected to fit in. However, to the amazement of everyone, all the curtains just adjusted themselves nicely in the car. What, except Guruji's grace, can explain something of this sort? Sweet blessings for diabetic father. My father has been diabetic since the 1980s, needing to take insulin injections twice a day. He came to Guruji and was given barfi, a sweet, as prasad by Guruji. Usually, people come out the hall and consume the prasad and then go back in and sit down. My father also came out of the hall and asked us what he should do with the 5 6 pieces of barfi he had just been given. I asked him to eat them all, as Guruji's instructions are that whatever prasad is given is medicine if it is eaten immediately. It loses its effects if taken home or elsewhere. I requested father to polish off the burfis. He argued that the sweet would be poison for him. I told him that these are a form of Guruji's blessings and can't have any negative impact. On my insistence, he ate the burfis and went back in. Guruji called him and gave him more burfi. Father was not willing to consume the sweets this time since he thought he was toying with the danger now. However, I insisted and he agreed and ate up the prasad. But Guruji was not done yet. He called him for the third time and again gave him barfi. When he had eaten the prasad for the third time, father must have consumed at least half a kilogram of barfi and was sure he would fall seriously ill. He anticipated his blood sugar would rise sharply after he had had such an unimaginable amount of sugar. We went back home and received a call from him at 5:30 a.m. on the next day. He was amazed to discover that his sugar, which stood at the 130 the previous morning, had dropped to 120 after all the barfi he had eaten the last night. The incident points out that anything given at Guruji's place loses physical significance, and it is prasad. Guruji's blessings during surgeries. My father is not only diabetic but also a heart patient. He once had some chest pain at night. He did not think much of it and used hot water bottles and massage to suppress the pain. Somehow he managed to get through the night. But with the situation worsening every passing minute, he finally called me up in the early hours next morning. When I reached his place, we rushed him to Apollo Hospital near Noida. Preliminary investigations indicated that the previous night, father had had a massive heart attack, and doctors were surprised at the laxity shown in our turning up at the hospital. However, after a complete case analysis, doctor advised a bypass surgery. It was expected to be a complicated affair given that my father's diabetic. It normally takes a diabetic more than double the time to heal than a normal patient. But with no other options left, doctor proceeded with the surgery after taking the consent of our family. Within the short notice of just a few hours, making all the arrangements for the surgery was quite challenging. But Guruji's grace was evident in the way the hospital staff supported us. The surgeon was the first to set the ball rolling by offering his blood in the absence of sufficient unit available. Moreover, a complicated surgery was carried out under the expert guidance of head of the heart surgery department, a surgeon who is available in India only for 10 to 12 days in a month. The availability of the surgeon is hard to ensure even with appointment made 15 to 20 days in advance. But in our case, without any intimation, he was available in few hours. My father's experience as he underwent the surgery was not traumatic at all. After he had gained consciousness, he inquired about the pre-operative results of the investigation, as he had had no idea that he had been operated upon. Everything what had happened that day had an element that cannot be defined or explained, and in fact shows that smooth sailing for my dad would have not been possible without Guruji's divine intervention. Not just that, the place of my father's post surgical recovery was surprising, even for the doctors. Doctor said it was better than that of a non diabetic patient. In fact, impossible to explain if analyzed medically. We were to witness more of Guruji's power play in hospitals. This time it was my cousin's brother, Ashok Singla, With his heart trouble dating back to over a decade, he was prescribed a third surgery, and on my advice, he came to Guruji. A resident of Chandigarh, he was in Delhi for the surgery for about a week in advance and so could go for Guruji's darshan on 3 to 4 occasions before hospitalization. Those few hours at Guruji's Sharan were enough to bail him out of any probable trouble pre and post surgery. The surgery and the pace of recovery were remarkable compared with his own experiences on the previous two occasions. Cannot be explained, only experienced. I could reiterate that understanding Guruji is beyond our capabilities. Similarly, it is impossible to put your experiences with Guruji into words, as words that can do justice to the stature of these blessings just do not exist. Guruji employs various tools to hide his true nature, and most of us are trapped at a superficial level of the contact with Guruji, not reaping the potential benefits Guruji offers us. Guruji can give anything and everything. In fact, you are allowed to reap only what you sow, but Guruji can grant what you desire and not only what you deserve. But that desire must benefit us in the long run. Here, devotees admit that their vision is limited and can see only the present. But Guruji's vision traverses the past, present, and the future. If you put your life's boat in Guruji's hands, you can rest assured of reaching the shore safely. This is where we have to develop the understanding the total surrender leads to total support. Further, due to our human nature, we cannot but try and ask for Guruji's blessings to get a favorable response. But the loss we incur is unimaginable. For once we are in Guruji's Sharan, we are sure to receive his blessings. If you go and ask for something, Guruji will grant the same, and that's it. But if you don't ask and let Guruji decide, his grant is usually, assuredly, more than what we can conceive of. Chana cures heart disease. The best way to get the maximum is to abide by Guruji's instructions. And it is tried and tested fact that whenever he instructs something, all the resources to accomplish the said task are made available by him. There have been innumerable occasions where Guruji has demonstrated this. One of my very close friends, S.S. Goyal, had a severe heart attack and was rushed to hospital. As I was leaving for Noida that night after the Sangat, I mentioned this to Guruji. Guruji asked me to do something immediately, which required some sawa 5 kg of chana, chickpeas. By the time we left, it had already it was already 1 p.m. of a peak winter night. Since, per Guruji's instructions, the activity was to be carried out immediately. I started looking for a general store from where I could buy the chanas. Against all odds, I was relieved to sight a shop still open, just 10 kilometers on my way back. I went to the shop and asked the shopkeeper to pack sawa 5 kg of chana. After checking his stock, the shopkeeper told me that he only had 4.5 kgs. Though the quantity was short of what I wanted, something is better than nothing. So just got it packed and while leaving casually asked the shopkeeper if he was always open at this time. He told me that he normally closes the shop by 10:30. But today he was reconciling all his stocks, an activity he takes up only once in about 3 to 4 months. Though one night dismisses it as mere coincidence, when coincidences favoring you occur too often, one stops doubting the source making them happen. But we were still short of required quantity of chana, so we continued searching. No shop was open. We reached home a bit disappointed and immediately went ahead to check if some chanas were available at home. A container with chanas revived our hopes. When we checked the weight, usually a small domestic weighing machine, all of us were amazed to find that it was exactly the 3/4 kg, just enough to get the right quantity. I did as Guruji had advised. Goel's condition improved dramatically, and he was discharged within the next 48 hours. Irrespective of how casual a remark made by Guruji might be, it has a deep impact. His tools, so effectively disguised, often leave us without a clue about what would have happened. It is rarely that Guruji makes the pros and cons clear. This reminds me of my visit to Punjab with Guruji, who was invited to inaugurate a hospital. After the inauguration, Guruji decided to extend his stay by a few more days. Guruji himself ensured proper arrangements for the Sangat stay in such conditions. Arrangements for me, along with the three more Sangat members, were done at the newly inaugurated hospital itself, with the owner of the hospital taking special care of the four of us. After 4 days of stay, with all the comfort and facilities at our disposal, we returned to Delhi. Guruji told one among the four of us that our stay at the hospital was to compensate for the coming back time, which would have seen all four of us on hospital beds for 4 months. Once in the month of December or January, I was driving back from the Sangat and the fog was so thick that the visibility was down to less than a meter or so. This was taking its toll on the turns on the road, were barely seen. After driving 7-8 kilometers of the 28-kilometer journey, I almost gave up. I prayed to Guruji and immediately a car zipped past me. I decided to blindly follow the car. About 40-45 minutes of the drive, the fog lessened, and I realized that we had reached Noida. The car left us on a turn about half a kilometer from my home. Similarly, once on a hot midsummer afternoon, I was driving on a highway when my car stopped. Left stranded, I took Guruji's refuse. Out of the blue, a man on a scooter stopped and asked if there was a problem. He was a car mechanic, and within 15 minutes, he had identified the problem but said two parts needed changing. He will be back in next 10 minutes with the parts, and he repaired the car. Experiences with Guruji are endless. Every day we experiences many such which show Guruji's support to us. I would conclude with a humble request to Guruji to keep all the Sangat members in his Sharan, forgiving our mistakes and overlooking our flaws. Shukrana Guruji. With this, we come to end of this Satsang Sangaji, and we will be continuing our journey tomorrow. And while reading, I must have made a lot of mistakes. So, with folded hands and bowed head, I seek forgiveness from Maharaj and all of you for the same. Shukrana Guruji, Jai Guruji.